they work together. The Russians, with no disrespect to your country or anybody else's, I think the Russians are the world leaders in this. And they found, like what I said, central nervous system disorders in children, immune system disorders, brain capacity disorders. They published the whole thing, and it's all to do with children. So we are, it could be well over 50% of the children in the world will suffer somehow unless somebody makes a stand against this organisation, this communications industry.
I look at the Danish society. I've been observing children for many years, and I've said to people, something is very wrong here. And young children are, it seems like they're not getting very clever anymore. It seems like they are, like you say, the brain capacity, and they are very ill. They are ill from their being born into this world, and we were not ill when we were young boys or girls. We were out all day, playing all day, and having lots of energy. The youngsters today, they don't have very much energy, and you can see it's all there. It's all transparent.
I was a guest, there are two answers here. I was a guest of a king in Africa. I was his guest for 2 days, and I gave a lecture to the king and the royal family, and a teacher came and spoke at the same meeting. And he said childhood suicides and bad behaviour was almost unknown in Africa. Almost unknown. There was no misbehaviour, no suicides in Africa. He said, then we had a transmitter in the school, put up in the school playground, and they started to get mobile phones. He said, and within a couple of years, he said, in my class, every single child, everyone, was on Ritalin for bad behaviour. Everyone. And I can tell you why. Imagine, and I can really explain this with the brain. Imagine that when you go back to Denmark, you pick up the telephone book, and imagine you have a magic button. And you can push this button, pick up your telephone, push this button, and it will dial every single person in Denmark, okay? Now imagine we're going to expand this, that you can push this button and you can dial every single person in the world all at once. Every telephone in the world all at once. You push the button and all these phone calls go out. That is the number of connections being made every second in the brain of a fetus. Every second, and not just a fetus as it is growing as a young adult. Every second those connections are being made. Now, if you expose a child to low-level microwave irradiation, you are giving that brain up to 1,800 small electric shocks every second. You know, and this is why. You know, it is so delicate and so miraculous that is going on there, and it's not designed to have electric shocks go through it all of the time. And you are going to get connections that rely on electrical attractions and chemical attractions. They are not going to end up where they're supposed to end up, and this is why.
And then, you know, this year, 27th of May, the Council of Europe, they came with a resolution called 1815, which was actually, when I read this document, I said, this is very tough, because it was much more tough than the WHO precautionary principle. And it came actually the day after we had a Danish politician saying they have made like a 2020 plan for the healthcare and so in Denmark, because they are having an agenda where the healthcare is going. And she was saying the day before, if I want to be part of this plan, I want more free wireless internet in all schools, on all educational institutions. And the next day this document came. And no one in the media in Denmark has talked about this one. No one in government, they have all got it, the ministers. No one is talking about it. And this really says that we must take the highest precaution about children, about schools, about everything you say.
There are two answers. Tell me if I talk too long and too much.
No, you talk.
I have been all over the world now, in the last 12 years, all over the world. And I'm not boasting, I'm not showing off. When I go to a country, usually I always end up on television in news documentaries, news programs. I always have the press interviews, and I give the public talks. Now, whenever I'm on television, national television, and in the press, or on the radio, live, usually on the radio, with people phoning in, I have one question that I ask in every single country, one question, and I say, would somebody from your government, their science department, or somebody from your Ministry of Health, or somebody from the industry, somebody who is very, very clever, would they come here on this television program or this radio program live with me and tell me one thing, just one, and then I can go home and be retired and happy. I said, I want the answer to one question. What is the safe level of microwave irradiation for an embryo, a fetus, a child, or a pregnant woman? What is the safe level? And in 12 years, in all of these countries, not a single scientist has come on television or the radio with me to say, here it is. Not one. And the reason they haven't is because there isn't one. There is no safe level. When you buy medicines, we have lots of medicines at our age. You know, when you have medicines, there is an adult dose and a children's dose, always. But with microwave irradiation, there is no children's dose. And there isn't anywhere in the world, and this is why.
In Denmark, in 2003, when we started the debate about all these mobile towers and the wireless in schools and so on, of course the state and the government, they made this trick that they always do. Oh, we need more research, so we take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more years. And then in the meanwhile they said, oh, it will take 3 years to do this research. And then they forced almost all schools to install wireless at the same time. And I just said, is this common sense? You have just started an research to find out if it's dangerous, and then you put wireless in schools. Now we are 8 years after, and I believe some schools have started to wonder a bit because the pupils are very out of themselves.
You know, there are countries now, in France, areas of France now, they are spending, I think it's 124 million euros taking Wi-Fi out of schools. In Canada there is a region now where they are taking Wi-Fi out of schools. So in the world there are areas now where they realise that if they want a healthy future generation, because it's already been predicted that the cost of treating all of these children is far going to exceed the benefits and the money you get from the mobile industry, which tends to leave your country anyway. People don't realise that, and that may be a question you can ask later, is that any country that floods itself with the mobile industry is actually going to end up bankrupt. Coming back to the children, Wi-Fi is now coming out of schools, but it is and questions you can ask later, it is the military and the secret services who want this industry to succeed, and that is where the opposition comes from.
And when we talk about, you said Ritalin, so many children are on medication, and more people are coming on psychiatric medication. When I talk to many of those people in Denmark and around the world, I often say to them, please try not to use a mobile phone for a week, your deck phone, disconnect everything, go into the woods, sleep more, try to see how you feel, and they call me back and say, can this be true? And I say, I don't know what's true, what are you feeling? And you know, last year, it came this year, it's a report from a German professor called Hans-Ulrich Wittgen about the size and burden of mental disorders and other disorders of the brain in Europe, 2010. And it's shocking, because it's depression, it's sleeplessness, insomnia, it's all the things that has to do with microwave radiation.
Oh yeah, it's known. I mean, it could be as high as 85% the increase. Yeah, but as I say, it is the military and the secret services, and just corruption in some cases, just ordinary corruption.
Yeah.
I've been to countries and I've met professors, and in one country, a couple of they were livid. They said, in this country, they said, one person, without any consultation, without talking to anybody else in the country, they never spoke to the government or anybody, one person somewhere in the government signed to say the communications industry can come in, put up transmitters, put up towers, anywhere you like, without any consultation. He said, one person. He said, and we all knew it would be dangerous.